Eat, sleep, bet, repeat. That's how we get down on the opening line at EliteSportsBetting.com. I'll be your host, Benny Ricciardi, and we got 3 days left till the All-Star break here, but we're still going to be talking some NBA basketball up to that point. We'll do some XFL stuff later on in the week, maybe some soccer stuff. Might even get the hockey guys on next week as well because, as you guys saw, I tweeted out this morning, I play hockey DFS for 1 week a year. It starts on Thursday when NBA's off, and it ends next Friday when NBA comes back. So for 1 whole week, I'll be a puckhead. But for now, we're going to be talking some basketball. As always, I got my experts, Paulie and Frank, in here with me. Frank, how's it going this morning? I know you said you got a little internet issue, but seems to be working pretty well now.
Yeah, building up a new network here, but we'll get it figured out.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, you got a 4,000-word script in there that you're running for your model right now. I think you can figure out how to use the internet. I'm not too worried about that. Yeah. So, Paulie, how about you, bro? How's it going? How's the weekend?
Yeah, just trying to recover from the disappointment that was Sunday in the golf tournament. There was only 3 guys within 7 shots of the lead heading into Sunday, and I had 2 of them, and the third guy won. So yeah.
Well, I mean, you hit a 60-1 a couple weeks ago. You hit a 12-1 last week. So, I mean, we're still ahead of the game here. I know golf didn't work out all that great for me this week, but when you're playing with house money, it really doesn't matter all that much. It's just still on the good side of the ledger, and that's all that really
matters. I'm greedy though.
Hey, you know what? I'm not going to argue with it. I could always use more money. It's, there's never a number that I've reached where I said, yeah, I got enough. I'm done now. So as far as I'm concerned,
we were about minus 190, minus 200 favorites to get a win yesterday and didn't get one. So
yeah. Hey, you know what? That just means we're overdue for next week. So that's all.
Yeah, good signs, right? Good signs.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Maybe we're overdue here for today for NBA right now. So the variance will swing back in our favor. Yep. So we got, like you said, we do have 9 games today. So at least it's a decent amount of games on the slate. Couple of them are kind of ugly. A lot of teams projected for below their normal scoring value. So I'm interested to see if you guys have a bunch of these games listed as overs or unders here today because some of the scoring today, there's only a couple teams. I did the write-up this morning. Only a couple teams projected for above what they normally score, which is not something you usually see in a 9-game slate. So we'll start at the top with the Brooklyn Nets going to face the Indiana Pacers here. This opened as a 7-point Indiana favorite. Total opened at 220. I'm actually seeing this total coming way down. I don't know if you guys are looking at the same thing here. I'm seeing 217s, 218s out there in the market. So a pretty decent move to the downside already we've seen this morning on this one. Frank, we'll start with you up top. Anything in Brooklyn, Indiana?
So I went to submit the under here at 219, and as I went to submit, it popped up 217. Yeah. So unfortunately, I missed the boat there, like literally by a minute. I did play Indiana, though. Irving out, Oladipo back. The Nets have played probably a little bit better than what they are, and I think the Pacers have played a little bit worse than what they are recently. And I think that'll straighten out, similar to how we took the Pacers against the Raptors last week, and they ended up blowing it, but they covered easy. So I think Indiana is quite a bit better than Brooklyn here, especially considering the injuries. So I'm going to lay the 7. I would lay 8 as well. I've got it at 9 points and 216 total for the game.
Wow, interesting. Frank starting off on the side today is I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen often. But to be fair, I was going to play the total instead. It was a little bit of a bigger edge, but with the way that shook out this morning, I kind of missed it. So.
All right, so I'm check marking this one because I don't hear Frank mention totals all that often. So when he does, there's usually something there. Paulie, anything you're looking at in this one?
Yeah, nothing for me pregame. This is one where I'm going to want to watch it live because if Brooklyn gets down a little bit early, I think this is one where they can get absolutely just smoked and blown out here. Yeah. They just haven't really shown much life. I mean, if they've stayed close in the game, that's fine. But the minute they get down, they can lose by 20. So, and with the line being, where it is right now, even if Indiana gets up 7 or 8, the line's only going to be like 11 or 12 for the game. And if they're up that much towards the end of the first half, I'd be willing to bet on Indiana that they're just going to kind of annihilate them in the second half. Brooklyn won't come back.
Yeah, and I like that, especially with Brooklyn on the road here. If they were at home, you would think maybe they're going to try to fight back for the home crowd. But on the road, you can kind of see them lay down a little bit, which is something
be looking for that momentum shift to pop in this game live, possibly.
All right, so a little bit of an in-game opportunity, hopefully there for Paulie. So, again, like I always tell you guys, make sure you get over to the chat, elitesportsbetting.com. You'll have Paulie hanging out in the chat most nights from, basically 7 to midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, kind of dropping, in-game bets as things start popping up and lines start moving, quarters, halves, things like that. Stuff that we can't really talk too much about before the game starts because you never really know where it's going to go. But, in-game has been pretty good to a lot of our subs, and that's where you can get all that information over there in the basketball chat every night. So let's go to the next game here. We got the Atlanta Hawks and the Orlando Magic. Orlando 6-point favorite. Total in this game 222. Paulie, we'll start with you here. Anything Atlanta Orlando?
Nothing for me in this game here. I have the game lined as 5, so it's really within 1 point. If we see any market movement, I might hop in if it gets to a big enough edge, but you got Atlanta here on the back-to-back after playing a long double overtime game last night against the Knicks. So it'll be interesting to see how they come out. They might come out flat, which if they come out flat might mean you have a chance to hop on Atlanta live if they get down a bunch against Orlando, because Orlando just been playing really bad of late. I think they've lost seems like every game over the last 6 weeks. So.
Frank, anything for you here?
So I have pretty much what I would have thought to have from a data perspective after Atlanta playing a double OT and then jumping on a plane at whatever time and flying, not that the Orlando trip is far, but, jumping on a plane, getting to Orlando probably early this morning and need to play another game after going double OT last night. So I have an edge on Atlanta and I have an edge on the over. But with that said, I mean, that's exactly what I would expect, right? Like small edges on both. You got to think that that's at least a couple point hindrance there in this game. So, I mean, I would be inclined to honestly play the opposite of what I have, just because, that with that overtime game, it's hard to judge the effects of that. And I'm already watching some under money come in, some Magic money come in. So I'm just going to stay away here considering.
Yeah, so let me take this moment here to kind of ask you guys a question about how you handle stuff like that. Like, you're both very numbers-oriented guys. You're running your models. You're getting your numbers. You're trusting your numbers. And, you've back-tested them over the long term. These things create profits for you, stuff like that. So when you have a situation like this where your numbers are telling you, like, play Atlanta or be on that side, but, just I don't want to say the narrative because that's the wrong word, but just like the situation, like, off a double OT game on the tail end of a back-to-back, having to travel on the road. Like, these are all things that are normally stuff that we want to avoid. How often do you find yourself looking at your numbers? Either one of you take this, feel free, like jump in wherever. How often do you find yourself looking at your numbers and saying, I know this is what my numbers are saying, but, my brain is telling me not to hop on them today?
So not that often for me. I can quantify back-to-back, right? Like I can we have enough sample to know exactly the effects of that when you're away back-to-back, home back-to-back, whatever. But for this situation, there's just not a lot of data that says like, oh, what happens in double overtime? How many double overtimes have we had this year? Not many. Like I can't even remember the last one, right? So, you just don't have the sample to it, and you certainly don't have the sample to combine that with a back-to-back. Back-to-back's already pretty rare. You maybe see like 1 or 2 a day on a bigger slate. So the odds of getting a back-to-back and coming off, double overtime or whatever, it's not a frequent enough occurrence for me to be able to quantify, other than just to assume that there's maybe like a 2 or 3 point effect here, in my opinion. And I have like a 2 or 3 point edge to the over and a 2 or 3 point edge on Atlanta, which all makes sense to me, in my head. So I'm just, I can't quantify it other than quantifying the back-to-back.
Paul, is that kind of similar to the way you look at it, or?
No, well, in terms of like the way I make my numbers, they aren't like purely model based. I obviously have data and models to get like a generalized number, but every single number I make, like from a model perspective, is adjusted based on other variables. So anything that's taken into consideration, such as back-to-backs, any additional injury concerns or other, extraneous variables, those are all calculated in the final number.
Okay. All right, so fair enough. I mean, it's just interesting to me as somebody who's, kind of getting into the whole modeling side of it, of how different people handle situations like that, and how often or not you kind of go away from your numbers, because again, the whole point of it is that you're putting together a model that is, going to create money for you over time and be profitable over time. And, every once in a while, though, sometimes the head gets in the way. And that's one of the things you try to do with gambling and modeling is take the emotion out of it and just, follow what the numbers give you. So
if I could quantify it, I certainly would. As a statistician, I don't see how you could have a good idea on what the effects of that would be.
Yeah, well, I mean, the sample size alone is like you're not going to get a lot of those situations where you could really say, all right, this sample is, representative of all teams playing back to back after double overtime games and flying from one city to another. I mean, like you said, how many times does that happen, in a 5-year, 10-year sample, let alone in a 1-year?
Yeah, not many, yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the next game here. We got the Charlotte Hornets going up against the Detroit Pistons. Pistons are 2.5-point favorite in this game. Total 209 it opened at. I'm seeing it down to 208 here a little bit. Again, still trying to get through some of these Detroit Pistons rotations and things like that after all the trades that they made. So it's not an easy spot to, to kind of break down. Frank, I think we're on you with this one. Charlotte, Detroit, anything?
Back on these unders with Charlotte. Granted, I've been chasing Detroit unders, the slowest team in the NBA over the last couple of weeks. Playing absurdly slow. I don't know if that's the kind of thrown in the towel or what's going on there, but this number opened up like 209. I played under 208.5. I would still play under 208. Which seems to be the number out there now. As I say that, 207.5 is now available. So I would play under 207.5, and I wouldn't play under anything worse than that. So I've got it at 206.2. Charlotte playing slightly slower. Detroit, like I said, slowest team in the NBA right now. So I do regress that back towards their season average. But even at that, I mean, the difference is so big here. I could see this game going under 200 points, to be honest. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see like a 200, 204 total, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, Charlotte already one of the lowest scoring teams in the league, and Detroit, we're still trying to figure out exactly who and what they are. Derrick Rose very likely not playing again today. He's listed as doubtful, so I don't want to say he's definitely out, but it looks very unlikely he's going to be in there. Paul,
there's been a lot of Pistons under money coming in recently, so someone's seeing the same kind of stuff that I think I've been seeing too.
Well, I mean, they traded away everybody on their team who could score is either hurt or playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers in their super big front court. I don't know. I guess they figured the Knicks tried it at the beginning of the year, and trying to do what the Knicks do is always a good thing, right, Paul?
Well, yeah, if you're trying to lose, it is.
Well, that's true. That does make a lot of sense.
Right.
Paul, are you looking at anything in this game, Charlotte, Detroit?
This is the game I call the G League special, with the way all the players are. Now this is one where it's really tough to get a hold and grasp in terms of what's actually going on in this game, just because there's so much turnover on both sides of the ball here, both teams. So I'm just gonna be looking at this one live here to see if anything pops up based on either pace or possibility in the sides. I have seen that Detroit's gotten off to a very fast scoring start lately. The first 5 or 6 minutes, we saw that about a week ago in the Denver game, where I think 60 or 70 points in the first quarter. Like Denver scored 44 in the first quarter and scored 105 for the game or something like that. Yeah. And I think the last game, I think maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, they went off in the first quarter, scored 60, and then total ended up at 210 for the game. So if they start out hot again, I'm 100% going to be pounding the under in the game.
All right, so some in-game opportunities here, but pre-flop probably staying away from the AAA basketball game that we got going on here today. Next game we can talk about, we got Minnesota and Toronto. I didn't see a line for this game this morning, but I'm looking at one right now, -9, 228. I think part of the reason I didn't see a line this morning is Kyle Lowry listed as questionable. That would probably change some things around. Do you guys have any news on that, or is that the number you guys are seeing too, -9 and 228?
I'm seeing.
Go ahead, Boy. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm seeing 9 and 9.5, and Lowry's pretty much maybe 30%, 40% chance to play tonight is what I have.
Okay. So anything on this game at that? Are you looking at anything here with that?
No, I mean Lowry's such a key piece here that I'm not putting money in this game until I know his status for sure. Because with the way the number is built right now, it's basically built in with that percentage right now. I'm right on market with it. But if he's ruled in or out, you're going to see a shift in value just because he's the leader in terms of ball handling on Toronto, which is going to be a massive, a massive difference if he's out. And you got Minnesota, who looked like they were the best team in the NBA the other night when they made every single three against the Clippers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. With Lowry and Russell both questionable. I mean, chief ball handlers. Gasol's out. There's too much here for me. The number looks to me like Lowry's going to play and maybe Russell's out.
Mm-hmm.
With them both out, I have it like 7.5. So at 9, if Lowry was out, I would probably play the 9 if I knew he wasn't going to play. But the number looks to me like he might play, but it's so tough to tell. And Minnesota probably may be affected more with the injury than what Toronto would be. Toronto's just a deeper, better team. So maybe that has something to do with it. But I got 229 for the game. I just have no idea what's going to go on here.
Yeah, and this is the first of a couple games that are going to be like this here today, because the next one we're going to talk about, we got Sacramento, Milwaukee. That's the next game we're going to talk about here. 227 total is what it opened at, with Milwaukee at home as a 14.5-point favorite. Milwaukee's down to an 11.5-point favorite, and I would have to say that that's 100% on the fact that Giannis is listed as questionable here today, and they have no idea what's going to happen there. Now, again, you look back at some of those games that they played without Giannis, which is what I was doing this morning to try to get an idea for daily fantasy on who we want to play. It's not like they can't still blow a team out by 15 points without Giannis. They've done it a bunch of times. Well, not a bunch of times, but they've done it a couple times already this year when he's been out too. So I don't think 11 is too many points here, but this line kind of tells me that there's a good chance Giannis isn't going to play since it's already down 3 points here, and I don't see any other reason why. So, Paulie, we'll start with you on this one. Anything you're seeing here, and, is that kind of the lean you have on it as well?
Yeah, well, with the Giannis news here for now, it's stay away. He's one of I think he's like the second most important player in the NBA for me in terms of like an adjustment when he's out. Mm-hmm. It's almost 5 points for me when he's out. So where the number is right now, it's kind of stuck in between there based upon if he's going to be in or out. So I'm just going to wait and see the news on Giannis before committing any money here.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, a good way to go about it. Frank, anything you're looking at there? Same thing?
Yeah, same thing for me. With him, I have him in just by happenstance, and I've got the game at 230.5 and 14, almost 15 points. So it's looking to me like he's going to be out. That being said, you don't get to be arguably the best team in the NBA by having, one good player, unless it's LeBron James, really. But Middleton is a great player.
Davis right there.
What's that?
I said shots fired at Anthony Davis right there.
Well, yeah, but we've seen Anthony Davis teams not be very good, right? So I don't.
For a long time, for a very long time, yeah.
I mean, his stat lines are cool, and he's a good player, but I think LeBron just amplifies everybody. But even with Giannis out, I mean, Middleton is a great player. Bledsoe's good. Lopez is good. Even George Hill's a plus player. They've got good players on this team. Obviously, without him, they can survive, and without him, they can still be 11-point favorites against a pretty bad Kings team. So to me, it's looking like this number like he's not going to play. Going off what Paulie says, from a point value perspective, I have him as the best, most valuable player in the NBA. Just to an average player, not necessarily to a team. I would still say that if LeBron's out, his replacement is going to be far worse than what I said with the Bucks, where they have good players who can handle the ball and take over a game if they need to. Didn't Middleton score almost 50 points or something the one game he was out?
The last game Giannis was out, and that's what I was looking at this morning, for fantasy. The last game Giannis was out, Middleton had 70 fantasy points. So
yeah, it was something. He went off that game. So like I said, they can survive without him. That being said, with the effects on him, if he were rolled in, I would certainly be playing overs and I would be playing Milwaukee. But it's looking like he's not going to play if I had to guess based on the line.
Yeah, and again, without knowing, because he can move the line so much, being the number one or number two guys as you guys have them in your models, really trying to guess on whether or not he's going to play doesn't really make a whole lot of sense here. And again, we're not talking a 2-point spread here. It's 11 points, which, you always have the chance to get
I
back.
tend to not play those anyway, right? Like even if I had an edge. So.
It's just everybody kind of knows that Milwaukee's going to win this game. It's just a matter of by how much. And, without the Giannis news, I'm not touching it either. So let's go to the next game. This one was kind of interesting. Utah and Dallas. Dallas opened up this game as a 1-point favorite. They're now a 1-point underdog here. The line opened at 222, and I'm actually seeing some spots that have this line all the way down to like 219 right now. So I'm not really sure how to handle this one. So let's get your thoughts on it. Frank, we'll start with you on this one. Utah, Dallas. Anything you're looking at?
Utah on the back-to-back, which is kind of surprising to see the movement that way. Granted, I do have Utah as a small favorite. I've liked Utah. We talked about this last week. I like Utah a lot. I think they're really good. They've over the last month and a half, they've been the most efficient team in the NBA. Dallas also very efficient, so this would be a really, really good game. I have it at 218, so not really enough to play there at 219. I would maybe play the under still at 219.5, but with the movement, I feel like I kind of just got ripped off if I take it now. And like I said, with Utah on the back-to-back, there's still some question marks. So I'm going to not play anything right now and just hopefully some over money comes in and I might sneak in on the under there.
Paulie, how about you? Anything you're looking at here, Utah, Dallas?
No, I have the game line at 2.5, so it's not a big enough edge for me to play right now.
Yeah, fair enough. But you agree with the line movement as well? You had 2.5.
Correct, yeah. The one on the other side didn't last that long. That got hit pretty much right away to flip to one on the other side. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at here too. Is that's what it opened as, and then basically the movement was very quick to the other side of that game.
And when you're just to be clear, like when you're moving around the zero, like someone has to win the game, right? So more times than not, you're always gonna pretty much see a 1, and then the vig is just gonna change based on that, right? So. It's just it all depends on like I'm seeing Utah at Pinnacle is -1, but it's -103. So you're talking more like a pick'em kind of edge there. So yeah, like -107, 108 on the other side. So it's just gonna probably keep moving around that zero if I had to guess.
All right, fair enough on that one. So we'll stay away from that, but I do think that Utah is the better team, and even on a back-to-back without Luka, I can't love this Dallas team right now. San Antonio Spurs, Denver Nuggets, the next game here. Opened with a 221.5 total. Denver favored by 8. It's down a little bit, looking at 7.5s out there in the market right now. Total down even more, and it's all over the place. I'm seeing 220s, 219s. I'm even seeing a couple – where are these 218s at? Stations, MGM got it down to 218. Will Hill has it at 218 right now. Pretty interesting there. So, Paulie, we'll start with you. San Antonio, Denver. What are you looking at here, and you agreeing with those line movements?
Yeah, I'm off by about 1 point on the market from the spread here, so it won't be any play for me in this game. But it will be interesting to see how Denver, kind of gets together here playing against the Spurs, considering Denver's in a spot right now where they're in, they can go up or down multiple seat positions over the next, couple months here, and that's going to be a big difference in terms of playoff matchups, especially Denver being able to play at home in the first and maybe even second round would be a massive edge for Denver, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things that they fought so hard for last year to get that high seed after the year before missing the playoffs on like the last day or the second to last day of the season, something like that. That was kind of a big deal for them. Frank, how about you? Anything you're looking at here in this game?
I'm pretty tight on both here. My sources kind of everywhere with San Antonio and Denver. The game I could see this game anywhere from like 5 to 8. So I'm not real sure. If I average out, my numbers, I'm at like 6-ish. So I don't necessarily agree with the move, but I don't really want to fade a side move in the NBA. It's moved like a point and a half. So that's pretty significant money at this point in the season. So I'm going to sit out this one. I've got like 218.5. So yeah, I agree with the under movement a little bit that's come in, but not necessarily the side movement. I'm just not really going to play. The Spurs have been everywhere this year for me. Their results have been crazy. My model keeps changing rapidly with them, so I don't really like playing their sides or totals at this point. They're kind of confusing me and my model a little bit.
It's all the teams in Texas, or that Houston, Dallas, right?
Yeah, it's been kind of crazy with them. It's just really varying results,
I was going to say the Spurs especially, though, they're one of those teams that kind of plays to the level of their competition. They've gone out and lost to some teams that you scratch your head about, and they've gone out and beat some teams where you're like, well, I mean, when they put it all together, this is a pretty good team out there. They just, they're a lot younger than they have been, with the exception of, like, the key pieces like the DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge. And one of the things with young players is they're inconsistent. One day they can look great. The next day they come out and you're like, oh, yeah, that's why it's a 22-year-old kid that only plays 17 minutes a game or something. So
yeah,
happens quite a bit with that team right there. So here's an interesting one I wanted to get your guys' opinion on and try to figure out why this is happening right now. First off, I have no idea how Golden State opened as a 3-point favorite in this game against Miami. Right now, it's a huge line movement here because now Miami is a 6-point favorite. So I don't know what happened. Maybe it has to do with Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler listed as questionable. Maybe he's in right now. But I don't know how anybody could have opened this game with Golden State favored. But anything you guys are seeing there, or am I just looking at an error here in the reporting?
I think it's an error. I saw the game open up at 6, and it's sitting at 5.5 or 6. And I never saw the 3-hole side. If I did, I would have hit that immediately.
Well, I would have too. That's why I'm looking at this now. I'm like, wow, really open as a favorite in this game? That makes no sense.
I'm seeing anywhere over in 5.5 to 6 anywhere, really.
Yeah.
All right, so 5.5, 6 is what it's sitting at right now, depending on where you're at. 219 is the total here. And somebody on Vegas Insider did not update the game the right way here this morning. So what are you guys looking at in this game? Anything you see? Like I said, Jimmy Butler is listed as questionable. We don't know whether or not he's going to be in. Kind of leaning towards him playing, but we'll see.
I think it's a little between. I think if Butler's out, I think the Warriors probably have some value here. And I think if Butler's in, Miami maybe has some value here. He's worth like 4 points-ish. And I've got it the game like 4 right now with Butler out. So Butler's out, I got like 4. If he were in, I would have it at like 8. So yeah, I'm not sure how to handle that. My total is pretty much bang on. But that will I mean, Butler's not like a huge like change of pace guy. He's not. I mean, he's providing value probably on both sides of the ball, more offensively, I would say, than defensively, just because there's more value to be had there. But yeah, I think this number is right dab in the middle. So maybe we're not real sure who's in and who's out here. I know Green's back, but with Butler questionable, I might just be sitting here waiting for news and just try to grab it right away. But I wouldn't be surprised to see it go up and down before we get news and then, get that number changed.
So, Paulie, I saw you kind of shaking your head a little bit there when Frank was talking. I think you're of the same mindset. If Butler's in, it could be value on one side, and if he's out, value on the other.
Agreed. I'm on the exact same mind frame as Frank here for this game.
All right, fair enough. So let's go on to the last game here. We got Phoenix and the LA Lakers. Lakers huge 12-point favorite here, total 228. Phoenix is very banged up in the front court. From what I'm seeing, Saric, Kaminsky, Baines, 3 guys that have been out for a while are all still likely out. And now DeAndre Ayton might be joining them. So we could get a Check Diallo night here for the Phoenix Suns. We might have to dust him off and throw him out there for 30 minutes. That would obviously not be a good thing. But, again, they're a 12-point underdog already in this spot. So really, is it going to matter? And I guess the best question is, Paulie, any value here that we can find?
Yeah, I think I found a good way to finally approach the Laker games, and that's actually not to bet on the side until at least the end of the first quarter, because one of 2 things happen in the game. The Lakers are either up 15 at the end of the first quarter, or the Lakers are just showing no effort, and the game's 1 or 2 point game at the end of the first quarter. And guess what? The live spread's pretty much what it was at the beginning of the game, and you could take the the team that's getting a lot of points. So if the Lakers are up 2 at the end of the first quarter, the line's going to be 11.5 instead of 12.5. And I'll probably take 11.5. If the Lakers get up 20 in the first quarter, which we have seen happen, right? You just kind of wait till, halftime, early third quarter, and then you play on the opposite, team away from the Lakers, because the Lakers bench, when they get a big lead, just surrender. We saw it happen in the Golden State game, right? They were up, 18, 20 points, and then before you know it, it's a ball game with a minute left. And we've seen that the whole entire year with the Lakers. So that's just the way to approach those games from now on, I think.
Yeah, not even so much surrender, just the fact that their bench just isn't very talented.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
if they're going to be out there, I mean, when LeBron and Anthony Davis are on the floor, then all right, yeah, they're going to win. But
Phoenix's bench is actually one of the better benches in terms of rallying when the scrubs are in, because they have a lot of 3-point shooting that can go up tempo as well. So it's definitely a spot. I kind of hope Phoenix gets down about 25 points this game, because they'll probably pull it back to about 10 or 12.
All right, so in-game opportunities here, but nothing on the pre-flop.
Right.
Frank, how about you? Last game of the day, anything here?
Not for me. With Ayton questionable, he's getting like almost 40 minutes. So you're talking about a guy who's sitting like 10 minutes or so a game, and he's an average player. I mean, he's nothing spectacular, but you're going to be replacing him with like a -2 player from the bench somewhere. And like we talked about before, when these bench guys get in and get full minutes, they tend to be less efficient, and they're probably be a little bit exposed playing against Lakers starters for the most part. With Ayton in, I've got the game at 10, 2:30, but so it's looking to me like he's not going to play. If I had to guess, I would maybe see some buyback on the Suns if he is announced in, but I'm just going to avoid this game. And like Paulie said, with the bench pieces being so key in a game like this, I tend to run away from these big spreads anyway.
All right, so not much there at the end. So let me ask you guys before we sign off, what's your best bet for the day? Give everybody, if they're just throwing one bet down here today, where do you think the biggest edge is that they could take?
Definitely Detroit under for me. Charlotte Detroit under, I think. Well, I just check it now, and it's 206.
It was 209 when we started talking, 208 when you were putting it in, and now we're down to 206.
Now it's 206. So I wouldn't play anymore because I have it like 20. To what I said, I think I have it at 206. So my only bet left would be Pacers -7. Like I said, Pacers haven't been very good. The Nets have been like a little bit better over the last couple of games. Irving's out. Oladipo's back. I just think the talent level is superior on this Pacers team. So the game, I think, should be closer to 9. I would play it at 7. I would play it at 8.
Paulie, how about you? What's your best bet for today?
I actually do not have any pregame action today. And this happens a couple times a week this time of year because, the market becomes more efficient because there's more data out there, right? So you're not going to see a 4 or 5 point edge in the market. You're going to see your biggest edge might be a 1 or 2 point edge. And a lot of times it's not playable because of all the risk due to injury concerns. So most of the action this time of year is going to be done live because you're going to be able to see some, motivation that's going on in the game, whether teams are trying or not, see some of the rotations, see some of the matchups, and most of the games just money's made live this time of year.
Yeah, and I know, like I said, you're always over in chat over there in the basketball chat at EliteSportsBetting.com, so you guys can get over there and check Paulie out. So, Paulie, let me rephrase the question for you a little bit here. What's the one thing you're really fucking hoping happens so that you can get a good in-game live bet down?
I hope Phoenix goes down 25 to Lakers.
All right, so if you see Phoenix down 20, 25 points, whether you're a subscriber or not,
yes,
just start betting on the Phoenix side of that game. Not the money line. You want to take it with the points, guys. Not the money. We're not expecting them to come back and win here. We're just expecting them not to lose by 20 or 25 or whatever the number we're going to be at that time. All right, so for Paulie and Frank, this is Benny signing off for another episode of The Opening Line at EliteSportsBetting.com.